Max Verstappen has found himself in very murky waters after the beef with the FIA, as it seems like the governing body doesn't plan on stopping with their penalties when it comes to using foul language during a press conference. Obviously, there is a lot that needs to be discussed in the next couple of months regarding the drivers' behaviour during the races and the press conferences, but Verstappen himself has sent a fierce warning that situations like this are definitely speeding up the process of retiring from the sport earlier. Will we see Max out of F1 much earlier than anticipated? And if so, will it be down to the FIA playing a huge role in that? Max Verstappen has won 3 world championships and is en route to win the 4th in a fierce battle with Lando Norris. But it seems like the fire that was burning in him a long time ago is now slowly but surely fading away. The Dutchman has stated that he is not looking to race in Formula 1 well into his 40s, but now after the latest beef with the FIA in which he was penalised by doing community work of some kind that neither he or the governing body knew anything about, that number might have just bumped down a bit. When protesting at the FIA's press conferences, Verstappen has gone on to answer questions outside of the room with a bunch of reporters around him, and one of the questions was whether or not situations like this have an effect on his future in the sport. Answering this, Verstappen said, "Oh, for sure. I mean, these kind of things definitely decide my future as well. You can't be yourself or you have to deal with these kinds of silly things. I think now I am at the stage of my career that you don't want to be dealing with this all the time. It's really tiring. Of course, it's great to have success and win races, but once you have accomplished all this, winning championships and races, you just want to have a good time as well. Everyone is pushing to the limit, everyone in this battle, even at the back of the grid, but if you have to deal with all these kinds of silly things, for me, that is another way of not continuing in the sport." This is not the first time that Verstappen has hinted about earlier retirement from the sport, as there were other factors that also influenced his decision, such as the increased number of sprint races and overall racing weekends in general. With 24 races and with the tendency for that to increase this number up to 25 or 26 in the foreseeable future, many drivers, including Verstappen, have hinted towards the fact that this is not a sustainable model, that the drivers are not going to be able to survive, because it's not just the 20 people we see on the track, it's the massive amount of crew members that also have to travel with them as well. When talking about why his responses have been cut short so much compared to the previous couple of races, while being obvious that the 3-time world champion is protesting the governing body's decision to penalise him, Verstappen said, "I find it ridiculous what happened, so why should I then give full answers? Because it's very easily, apparently, that you get a fine or some sort of penalty, so I prefer then not to speak a lot, save my voice, and we can do the interviews also somewhere else." But what is happening lately with the FIA is also a very big question mark for Verstappen's career, because this is obviously something that is hurting his ego and his character in the sport. Swearing in the sport has been present for quite some time now, and to think that it should be banned is much easier said than done. These drivers are hitting speeds of over 300 kilometers per hour, and when a wrong move is done, whether it's from their side or another driver's side, or a wrong strategy is chosen after the driver has worked really hard for the race to come out positive for him, of course, swearing will be involved. Many drivers have expressed their support for Max Verstappen, including Lewis Hamilton, who said that he would definitely not be doing the work that has been asked from his fiercest rival back in 2021. As the 7-time world champion stated, "I think it is a bit of a joke, to be honest. This is the pinnacle of the sport. Mistakes are made. I certainly wouldn't be doing the community service, and I hope Max doesn't do it too." There was a report that the F1 drivers were very angry with the FIA's decision to penalise Max for the penalty he received, because this is not something you can control. It's said in the moment and it's not structured towards anybody as an offence. It's an argument that Verstappen himself used, while Ben Saliam said that as a parent, the last thing you'd want to hear from your favourite sport when watching it with your kid is swearing. The president of the FIA stated that he was a racer on his own, having won 14 titles in the Middle East Rally Championship and bravely said that if he went on full rant mode every time he felt angry, he wouldn't be where he is right now. But according to Max, this makes no sense because at a certain point in those kids' lives, they're going to swear, regardless of the presence of their parents. As the Dutchman continued, everyone swears, some people a bit more than others. Of course, abuse is something else, but I think a lot of things get broadcast nowadays where in other sports you don't run around with a microphone attached to you. A lot of people say a lot of bad things when they are full of adrenaline. In other sports, it just doesn't get picked up. When here, probably also for the entertainment purposes, things get sent out. It's just probably a bit of the world that we live in. I think it already starts with not broadcasting it or not giving the option for people to hear it. It's safe to assume that the statement made from Verstappen is quite a strong one, and having a bunch of reporters from the outside of the conference room run to him for answers goes to show that his influence in the sport is much bigger than many people might imagine. And this is probably one of the few things on which all of the drivers can mutually agree on. There is no place for further rules in the sport when it comes to swearing, and there shouldn't be any because they are constantly being mic'd up. And if we are to do that in all sports like football or basketball, we would notice how calm Formula One actually is. After all, they are putting their lives at risk, which does give them the right to say a foul word or two. And the fact that even the broadcast is censoring these words is as much of a job as they could do. But the president of the governing body wants to take it a step further and delete swearing from the vocabulary of the drivers. When talking about this, Saliam said that the drivers are not rappers and therefore they shouldn't act like one, to which Hamilton found a bit of a racial element, further stating, "When I was 22, I did not think of it as much, as it was more about your emotions just firing and saying whatever comes to mind and forgetting how many people are listening and kids listening and all those kinds of things." So I agree in that sense. You know, you listen to some of the other drivers and they have not got it yet, so at some stage they probably will. I don't like how he expressed it, saying that rappers is very stereotypical, and if you think about it, most rappers are black, and that really points it towards when it says we are not like them. So I think those are the wrong choice of words. There is a racial element there. This is not the first time that Hamilton has gotten into a beef with the FIA, especially not with Ben Saliam, who launched an investigation into Susie Wolff without even having enough evidence for the alleged conflict of interest case, only for the FIA to withdraw it as fast as it launched it. When being asked about whether Ben still had his support as a president of the FIA, Hamilton cold-bloodedly replied, "He never had it." This will definitely help Verstappen in his aid and his mission to continue fighting in the sport the way that only he knows how, which is to continue doing what he does in an original manner. With all this in mind, do you think that Verstappen could be forced into retirement by all of the latest rules by the FIA? And if so, do you think that this will set a precedent for other drivers as to whether or not the governing body has taken too much power into their hands when controlling the behaviour of the F1 competitors? This is all definitely heating up a bit. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and once you do that, make sure to check out the video that's appearing on your screen right now.